My husband said our 4-year-old daughter was faking food poisoning for attention and refused to help her when she spent 2 days vomiting with a 102-degree fever. So I let him believe his food poisoning was all in his head and went to work while he begged for water. That was 3 days ago. He lost his 180K job after missing the Peterson presentation and now sits in our guest room reading parenting books and leaving voicemails for every child therapist in the state. My husband isn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. I know it's mean to talk about your spouse this way, but he's done things like say depression and anxiety are made up. He thinks allergies aren't real, and mostly he just doesn't get that people can feel sick. He says that when he was growing up, no one was ever ill, and that getting a cold is just made up nonsense. To make it clear, it's not that he doesn't believe in the flu or the cold being a thing. He more so believes that when you do catch the cold, you are supposed to go about life like you don't have it, instead of resting in bed or drinking tea. I remember the first time I told him that my sister was sick. This was when CVID was around, and she had a really serious case of it. His genuine advice was for her to go outside and get some fresh air, then go to the gym and exercise to sweat the disease out. And if that doesn't work, convince yourself you don't have it. I laughed as I thought he was joking, but it turns out he was full-on serious. A few weeks later, when he found out that my sister did not follow his advice, he became very angry and told me I'm only feeding the narrative that humans aren't resilient beings and are instead delicate daisies who need their hot tea and blankets when sick. He and I had our daughter 4 years ago. Oh, and I genuinely believed that he would understand what babies indeed do need all the care in the world, but this was not the case. I remember he would let her cry for hours, or not feed her sometimes when I was at work to get her acclimated to not eating. His reasoning for this was that it builds up her tolerance to surviving without food and therefore makes her body stronger in the long run. We had huge arguments about this, and things only got better when I threatened to leave and even pressed charges for neglectful parenting. He became a bit better at understanding that our child does indeed need food and warm clothes and started providing for her, but one thing he has still never been able to grasp is our daughter getting sick. We had to have a huge fight about her vaccines back in the day. Nowadays, our daughter is a little more grown and can eat more and more adult foods as time goes on. Well, about a week ago, my daughter had McDonald's for the first time. She had some chicken nuggets and enjoyed them. The next day, however, she started feeling ill, and she came to us in the middle of the night telling us that she was throwing up. Both my husband and I woke up, and he told me to go help her out. I did and stayed with her until she fell back asleep. I came back into bed and woke my husband up to talk about it, and his response baffled me. He asked me if I was seriously falling for her manipulation. I asked him what he meant, and he said, "Dee, it's obvious. Our daughter wants attention and wants to skip school. She has learned that by being sick, she will get attention, and she is now old enough to use things like that to her advantage. She isn't sick, and her doing things like this is your fault." I remember being in utter disbelief and going to bed. The next day, my daughter was still throwing up, so I called in sick to work to care for her, while my husband complained all morning about how she was clearly faking, even after I showed him her vomiting, as well as the fact that she had a fever. He still did not believe me. My daughter thankfully ended up getting better after 2 days of this. My husband complained about it the whole time. The thing is, about 3 weeks later, something I never foresaw happened. My husband came down with food poisoning. He was bedridden and was throwing up over and over. I remember he asked me to get him some water, and this where I had my sweet revenge. I told him that he was faking it for attention. He was probably too lazy to go to work and wanted to lie in bed all day. Yondid isn't sick. I then told him to get his water. The look on my husband's face was priceless. That was yesterday, and he's still sick today. I came in this morning to ask him if he's done faking, and he did not look happy in the slightest. I walked out of the bedroom and headed to the kitchen to make breakfast for our daughter. Lily was sitting at the table, coloring in her princess book with the concentration only a 4-year-old could muster. She looked up when I entered, her face brightening. "Mommy, is Daddy still sick?" she asked, tilting her head. I poured her some cereal and milk, setting it down in front of her. "Yes, sweetie. Daddy's not feeling well today." She frowned, stirring her spoon through the colorful loops. "When I was sick, Daddy said I was pretending." Was I pretending, Mommy? My heart clenched. I sat down beside her, smoothing her hair back from her face. "No, baby. You were really sick. Sometimes Daddy doesn't understand things the right way." From upstairs, I heard Benedict groaning loudly, followed by the sound of him stumbling to the bathroom. The retching that followed was unmistakable. Lily's eyes widened and she pushed her bowl away. "That's what I sounded like," she whispered. I pulled her into my lap, holding her close. "I know, sweetheart, and I took care of you because that's what we do when people we love are sick." She nodded against my chest, then pulled back to look at me with those serious brown eyes. "But you're not taking care of Daddy." The simplicity of her observation hit me like a punch. I kissed her forehead and set her back in her chair. "Finish your breakfast, okay? I need to check on something." I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The bathroom door was ajar, and I could see Benedict hunched over the toilet, his whole body shaking. For a moment, just a moment, I felt that familiar pull to help him, to get him water, rub his back, tell him it would be okay. Then I remembered Lily's tears 3 weeks ago, how she'd reached for him, calling Daddy, "My tummy hurts so bad," and he'd stepped back, telling her to stop being dramatic, how she'd looked at me with such confusion when he wouldn't hold her hair back like I did. I pushed the door open wider. Benedict looked up at me, his face pale and sweaty, eyes pleading. "Sarah, please. I need water. I can't keep anything down." I leaned against the door frame, crossing my arms. "You know what? I think you're just being dramatic. Maybe you should try going for a run." Sweat it out. His face contorted, whether from nausea or anger, I couldn't tell. "This isn't funny. I'm actually sick." "Oh, you're actually sick? How convenient. Just like Lily was actually sick when she had food poisoning. Remember that?" He tried to stand, but immediately dropped back to his knees, dry heaving into the toilet. When he finished, he wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, glaring at me. "That's different. She's a child. Children exaggerate." "She's 4 years old, Benedict. 4. She doesn't even know how to exaggerate about being sick. She just knows her tummy hurt and her daddy wouldn't help her." I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. "Where are you going?" "I need help. To work," I lied. "You know, like you did when our daughter was sick. I'm sure you'll be fine. Just convince yourself you're not sick. That's what you told my sister to do with Kivid, right?" I went back downstairs to find Lily had finished her cereal and was back to coloring. She'd moved on to a picture of a family, a mommy, daddy, and little girl standing in front of a house. She was carefully coloring the daddy's shirt green. "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy believe people when they're sick?" I sat down beside her again, watching her small hands work. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that her father grew up in a house where showing weakness meant being ridiculed, where his own father had forced him to go to school with pneumonia because real men don't get sick? Sometimes people learn wrong ideas when they're little, I said carefully, and when they grow up, they still believe those wrong ideas. She nodded solemnly, switching to a purple crayon for the mommy's dress. "Like when Alex at school said girls girls can't be doctors, but you told me that was a wrong idea. Exactly like that. We spent the morning together, something that rarely happened anymore with my work schedule. I helped her practice writing her name, we read 3 books about dinosaurs, and we made Play-Doh cookies that she very seriously informed me were not for eating. Every so often, we'd hear Benedict moving around upstairs, the toilet flushing, the sound of him groaning. Around noon, Lily looked up from her Play-Doh creation. Mommy, should we make Daddy some soup? You made me soup when I was sick. The innocence in her voice nearly broke me. Here was this tiny person, showing more empathy and care than her grown father had shown her. I pulled her into a hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. That's very kind of you to think of Daddy, I said. But remember how Daddy said being sick was just in your head? Well, if it's just in his head, then he doesn't need soup, does he? She thought about this for a moment, her little forehead wrinkling. But what if it's not in his head? What if his tummy really hurts like mine did? Then maybe he'll understand how you felt when he didn't believe you. It was a harsh lesson for a 4-year-old, but what else could I do? Let her grow up thinking it was normal for the people who were supposed to protect you to dismiss your pain? Let her internalize that her feelings and experiences didn't matter? Benedict appeared in the kitchen doorway around 1 o'clock, looking like death warmed over. He was clutching the wall for support, his usually neat hair sticking up in all directions. Lily looked up from her coloring, her eyes wide. Daddy, you look sick, she said matter-of-factly. He nodded weakly, shuffling toward the refrigerator. I watched him struggle to open it, his hands shaking as he reached for the water pitcher. He managed to pour himself a glass, spilling half of it on the counter in the process. Daddy, when I was sick, you said I was making it up, Lily said suddenly. Are you making it up? Benedict froze, the glass halfway to his lips. He looked at our daughter, then at me, then back at her. For the first time since I'd known him, he seemed to be at a loss for words. No, Lily, I'm not making it up. I'm really sick. Oh, she went back to coloring, then added, maybe you should convince yourself you're not sick. That's what you told Mommy to tell Aunt Jamie when she had the Keyvid sickness. I bit back a smile as Benedict's face flushed, though whether from embarrassment or nausea, I couldn't tell. He took a sip of water, immediately gagged, and rushed back upstairs. Lily watched him go, then turned to me. Mommy, I don't think convincing yourself works very good. No, baby, it doesn't. The rest of the afternoon passed quietly. I made Lily lunch, a simple sandwich and apple slices, nothing that might upset her still sensitive stomach. She chatted about her friends at preschool, about the butterfly they'd seen at recess, about how Mrs. Lawson had taught them a new song about the days of the week. Benedict ventured downstairs twice more, each time looking worse than before. The second time, he actually asked me to take him to the doctor. The doctor? I said, feigning surprise. But Benedict, you always say doctors just want to push pills on people. That modern medicine is making us weak, remember? He leaned heavily against the counter, sweat beading on his forehead. This is different. I think I have food poisoning. It's serious. Food poisoning? I tapped my chin thoughtfully. You mean like what Lily had 3 weeks ago, when you said she was faking for attention? Sarah, please. This isn't the time for what? For pointing out your hypocrisy? You're right, Benedict. This is the perfect time for you to show us how strong and resilient you are. Show Lily how a real man handles being sick. Go to work tomorrow. Power through it. He stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then another wave of nausea hit, and he stumbled back upstairs. Lily watched him go, then turned back to her coloring. Daddy seems really sick, she observed. Yes, he does. Maybe he should stay in bed and drink tea like I did. I smoothed her hair back. Maybe he should. But Daddy thinks that's for weak people, remember? She nodded slowly, processing this information with a gravity only a small child could bring to such matters. Then she brightened. Mommy, can we make cookies? Real ones this time? Of course we can, sweetheart. We spent the rest of the afternoon baking chocolate chip cookies, the warm smell filling the kitchen. Lily stood on her little step stool, carefully measuring ingredients and stirring the dough with intense concentration. She only tried to eat the raw dough twice, which was a record for her. As we waited for the cookies to bake, she curled up next to me on the couch, and I read her favorite book about a brave little mouse who saved her family from a cat. Halfway through, she interrupted me. Mommy, when I was sick and Daddy didn't help, it made me sad. I closed the book, giving her my full attention. I know it did, baby. It made me sad too. Why doesn't he believe me when I say something hurts? How could I explain years of conditioning, of toxic masculinity, of generational trauma to a 4-year-old? How could I tell her that her grandfather had been even worse? That Benedict had been taught from birth that showing vulnerability was weakness? That admitting to pain made you less of a person? I don't know, I said finally. But I want you to know that I will always believe you when you tell me something hurts or you don't feel good. Always. She snuggled closer. I know, Mommy. You're the best taker-carer of sick people. The timer dinged, and we pulled the cookies from the oven. Lily insisted on arranging them on a plate, fancy-like, and even suggested we save some for Daddy when he stops being sick in his head. That evening, as I tucked her into bed, she asked one more question that stopped me cold. Mommy, do you still love Daddy even when he's mean about being sick? I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. Love is complicated, sweetheart. I love the good parts of Daddy, but I don't love it when he's unkind or doesn't believe people who are hurting. Does that make sense? She nodded thoughtfully. Like how I love Alex at school, but I don't love it when he pulls my hair. Exactly like that. I kissed her goodnight and turned off the light, leaving her door cracked just the way she liked it. In the hallway, I could hear Benedict in our bedroom, still groaning periodically. Part of me, the part that had loved him for 8 years, wanted to go to him, to bring him water and medicine and comfort. But the mother in me, the part that had held our daughter while she cried and asked why Daddy didn't believe her tummy hurt, that part kept me walking past our bedroom door and down to the guest room. As I lay in bed that night, I thought about the conversation I'd need to have with Benedict when he recovered, about therapy, about changing his toxic beliefs, about the damage he was doing to our daughter, about how I wouldn't let another generation grow up thinking that pain was weakness and vulnerability was manipulation. Tomorrow would bring more of the same, I knew. Benedict would still be sick, still expecting me to cave and care for him, but I wouldn't. Not until he understood what he'd put our 4-year-old daughter through. Not until he could look her in the eye and apologize for not believing her pain. The sound of him retching echoed through the walls, and I pulled a pillow over my head. Tomorrow, I decided, I'd take Lily to the park. Let her play and run and be a normal kid whose biggest worry was whether she could climb to the top of the jungle gym. Benedict could take care of himself. After all, according to him, he wasn't really sick anyway. The next morning arrived with Benedict's condition showing no improvement. I woke to the sound of him stumbling down the hallway, his footsteps uneven and heavy. Lily was already awake, sitting up in her bed when I checked on her, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. Is Daddy still sick? She asked, her voice small. Yes, sweetie, he is. She climbed out of bed and followed me to the kitchen, where I started making her breakfast. Benedict appeared moments later, gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping him upright. His face had taken on a grayish pallor, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Sarah, I need you to call my office, he rasped. Tell them I can't come in. I turned from the stove, spatula in hand. Why would I do that? You're not really sick, remember? You're just being dramatic. He swayed slightly, catching himself against the wall. This is serious. I haven't kept anything down for 2 days. 2 whole days? I clicked my tongue sympathetically. Lily was sick for 2 days too, but you went to work both of those days, didn't you? Left me to handle everything alone. Lily watched this exchange with wide eyes, her spoon suspended halfway to her mouth. Benedict's gaze flickered to her, then back to me. That was different, he insisted weakly. How? I set a plate of scrambled eggs in front of Lily. How was our 4-year-old daughter throwing up any different from you throwing up? He opened his mouth to respond, but another wave of nausea overtook him. He barely made it to the downstairs bathroom in time. Lily pushed her eggs around her plate, her appetite clearly affected by the sounds coming from down the hall. Mommy, why won't you help Daddy? She asked quietly. I sat down beside her, choosing my words carefully. Do you remember when you were sick and asked Daddy for help? What did he say? She scrunched up her face, thinking. He said I was pretending. He said I wanted to skip school. That's right. And how did that make you feel? Sad and scared because my tummy hurt so bad and he didn't believe me. I smoothed her hair back. Well, now Daddy is learning what it feels like when someone doesn't believe you're really sick. She considered this with a serious contemplation only a child could manage. But 2 wrongs don't make a right. That's what Mrs. Lawson says. My heart twisted at her innocent wisdom. Before I could respond, Benedict emerged from the bathroom, looking even worse than before. He made it 3 steps before having to lean against the wall. I need to go to the hospital, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The hospital? I raised an eyebrow. For what? A little stomach bug? Come on, Benedict. Where's that resilience you're always talking about? The human body is strong, remember? You don't need doctors filling you with unnecessary medications. His legs gave out, and he slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. Lily gasped, starting to get up from her chair, but I gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Finish your breakfast, sweetheart. But Daddy fell down, she protested. Daddy's fine. He's just being dramatic. Benedict looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. Sarah, please. I think I'm dehydrated. I need IV fluids. IV fluids? I laughed, though there was no humor in it. What happened to sweating it out at the gym? To convincing yourself you're not sick? Those were your solutions for my sister when she had Key-vid, weren't they? He tried to stand but couldn't manage it. Lily had abandoned her breakfast entirely now, watching her father with growing concern. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the desire to help warring with the memory of his dismissal when she'd needed him. Mommy, Daddy looks really bad, she whispered. She was right. Part of me wondered if I was taking this too far. But then I remembered finding Lily crying in her bed 3 weeks ago, her little body shaking with fever while Benedict stood in the doorway telling her to stop seeking attention. I remembered having to hold her hair back while she vomited, her confused tears when Daddy wouldn't even bring her water. Come on, Lily, let's get you dressed for the day. I took her hand and led her upstairs, leaving Benedict on the floor. As we passed him, Lily paused. Daddy, when I was sick, you told me to be strong, so you should be strong too. The look on Benedict's face was something I'd never seen before, a mixture of shock, shame, and dawning realization. But it wasn't enough, not yet. I helped Lily pick out her clothes for the day, a purple dress with butterflies that she particularly loved. As she got dressed, she kept glancing toward the door. Is Daddy going to be okay? She asked as I braided her hair. Daddy will be fine, I assured her. He just needs to learn an important lesson. What kind of lesson? That when people say they're hurting, we should believe them and help them. She nodded solemnly. Like how you helped me. Exactly like that. When we came back downstairs, Benedict had managed to drag himself to the couch. He was curled up in a fetal position, clutching his stomach. The sight of him like that, so different from his usual confident, dismissive self, should have moved me. Instead, I felt a cold satisfaction. Sarah, he croaked as we entered the living room. I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry. I paused, considering his words. Sorry for what exactly? He struggled to sit up. For not believing Lily was sick. And for not helping her. I shook my head. You're not sorry, Benedict. You're just sick and want help. There's a difference. Lily tugged on my hand. Mommy, if Daddy says sorry, shouldn't we forgive him? Sometimes, sweetheart, people need to really understand what they did wrong before we can forgive them. Daddy's not there yet. I spent the morning playing with Lily in the backyard. We blew bubbles, played on her swing set, and had a tea party with her stuffed animals. Every so often, I'd see Benedict's face appear in the window, pale and desperate. Once, he even tried to come outside, but only made it as far as the back door before having to rush back to the bathroom. Around lunchtime, Lily and I came inside to find Benedict had somehow made it to the kitchen. He was slumped at the table, his head in his hands. There was a piece of paper in front of him. His phone lay beside it. What's this? I asked, picking up the paper. My mother's number, he said weakly. I was going to call her, ask her to come help. I almost laughed. Your mother? The woman who sent you to school with a 103-degree fever? Who told you that crying when you broke your arm made you weak? You think she's going to help you with a stomach bug? His shoulders shook, and for a moment, I thought he was going to cry. I don't know what else to do. Lily climbed onto the chair beside him, studying his face with those perceptive eyes of hers. Daddy, you look like I did when I was sick. He lifted his head to look at her. I'm so sorry, baby. I should have believed you. Why didn't you? She asked simply. Benedict glanced at me, then back at our daughter. Because when I was little, my daddy told me that being sick was bad, that strong people don't get sick. But everybody gets sick sometimes, Lily said, confused. Even superheroes get sick. I saw it on TV. You're right, he whispered. Everybody gets sick sometimes. I watched this exchange with mixed feelings. Part of me wanted to intervene, to protect Lily from having to be the adult in this situation. But another part recognized that this conversation needed to happen. Daddy, Lily continued, when I was sick and you didn't help, it made me think you didn't love me. The words hit Benedict like a physical blow. He reached out a shaking hand toward her, then pulled it back, unsure if he had the right to comfort her. I do love you, he said, his voice breaking. I love you so much. I didn't know how to show it the right way. Lily considered this. Mommy says sometimes grown-ups learn wrong things and have to learn the right things. Your mommy is very smart, Benedict said, looking at me with pleading eyes. I crossed my arms. Don't look at me for help, Benedict. You made your bed. He nodded slowly, accepting this. Then, with visible effort, he stood up from the table. I'm going to go lie down. As he shuffled out of the kitchen, Lily turned to me. Mommy, I think Daddy is really learning his lesson. Maybe, I conceded, but he's got a lot more learning to do. That afternoon, while Lily napped, I did some work from home. I could hear Benedict moving around upstairs occasionally, the sound of the toilet flushing, the creak of the bed as he collapsed back onto it. Once, I heard what sounded like crying, but I hardened my heart against it. Around 3 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Benedict's office. Hi, Sarah. This is Tom from Benedict's department. Is everything okay? He didn't show up for the Peterson presentation, and that's not like him. I leaned back in my chair. Oh, Benedict's fine. He's just feeling a little under the weather. You know how he is about illness, mind over matter and all that. I'm sure he'll power through. Are you sure? The Peterson presentation was was huge. He's been preparing for weeks. I'm sure he has it under control, I said smoothly. After all, he always says that real professionals don't let a little sickness stop them. After I hung up, I heard Benedict's phone ringing upstairs. It rang and rang, but he didn't answer. 10 minutes later, it rang again. This pattern continued for the next hour. When Lily woke up from her nap, she found me in the kitchen preparing dinner. Is Daddy still sick? She asked, rubbing her eyes. Yes, sweetie. She climbed onto her chair at the table, watching me chop vegetables. Mommy, when I was sick, how many days until you helped me? I helped you right away, baby. The moment you told me you didn't feel good. Oh, she was quiet for a moment. And how many days has Daddy been sick? This is his second day. That's the same as me, she observed. I got better after 2 days because you took care of me. The innocent observation hung in the air between us. I continued preparing dinner, trying to ignore the growing knot in my stomach. Was I taking this too far? Was I becoming the very thing I was trying to teach Benedict not to be? As if reading my thoughts, Lily spoke again. Mommy, are you being mean to Daddy on purpose? I set down the knife and turned to face her. What do you think? She chewed her lip, thinking hard. I think you want Daddy to know how I felt, but I don't want Daddy to feel as bad as I did. It was scary. Her empathy, so pure and untainted by years of hurt and resentment, made me pause. Here was this tiny person, showing more compassion than either of the adults in her life. You're a very kind person, Lily, I said softly. Mrs. Lawson says kindness is a superpower, she replied matter-of-factly. Just then, we heard a crash from upstairs. Lily jumped up, alarmed. Daddy! Before I could stop her, she was running up the stairs. I followed, my heart pounding. We found Benedict on the bathroom floor, having knocked over the wastebasket in his attempt to reach the toilet. Daddy! Lily cried, rushing to him. No, sweetie, don't, I started, but she was already kneeling beside him, her little hand on his back. It's okay, Daddy, she said softly. Being sick is scary, but it will get better. Benedict looked up at her through tears. Actual tears. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. When you were sick, you must have been so scared, and I wasn't there for you. You're here now, Lily said simply. I stood in the doorway, watching my 4-year-old daughter show more grace than I had managed in 2 days. Benedict reached out a shaking hand and smoothed her hair back, the same gesture I'd made countless times. You needed me, and I failed you, he whispered. I failed you because I was too proud and too stupid to see past what my own father taught me. Lily patted his shoulder with her small hand. It's okay, Daddy. Mommy says we all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them. Benedict's gaze found mine over Lily's head. Your mommy is right. I have a lot to learn. I felt something shift in that moment. The anger that had sustained me for 2 days began to crack, but I wasn't ready to let it go entirely. Not yet. Lily, sweetie, why don't you go wash your hands for dinner? I said. She looked between us, then nodded. Okay, feel better, Daddy. After she left, Benedict struggled to sit up against the bathtub. Sarah, I know you hate me right now, and you have every right to, but I need you to know, I get it now. When Lily was sick, she needed me, and I abandoned her, just like my father abandoned me. Getting it and changing are 2 different things, I said quietly. I know. He wiped his face with a trembling hand. I want to change. I need to change. For Lily, for you, for myself. And what happens the next time she gets sick? Or when she's older and comes to you with problems you think aren't real? What about when she's a teenager and tells you she's depressed or anxious? He flinched at each question. I don't know, but I know I can't handle it the way my father did, the way I've been handling it. I studied him for a long moment. He looked broken in a way I'd never seen before. Not just physically sick, but emotionally shattered. The wall he'd built around himself, brick by brick since childhood, was crumbling. There's water in the mini fridge in the guest room, I said finally. Small sips, and there are crackers in the nightstand drawer. His eyes widened slightly. You put those there? This morning, while you were passed out. But I thought, I'm not a monster, Benedict. I'm just a mother who won't let her daughter grow up thinking her pain doesn't matter. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Sarah, thank you for the lesson, for making me see. I paused at the door. The lesson's not over yet. You've got years of damage to undo, years of toxic beliefs to unlearn. This is just the beginning. I know, he said quietly, but it's a start, right? I didn't answer, just headed back downstairs where Lily was waiting at the dinner table. She'd set out 3 plates, I noticed. Ever the optimist. Is Daddy coming to dinner? She asked hopefully. Not tonight, sweetheart. His tummy's still too sick for food. She nodded understandingly. When I was sick, I couldn't eat either, but you stayed with me anyway. The gentle reproach in her words wasn't intentional, I knew. She was simply stating a fact, but it hit its mark nonetheless. We ate dinner quietly, Lily chattering occasionally about her day, about the butterfly she'd seen, about the tower she'd built with blocks, normal 4-year-old things, the things that mattered to her, the things Benedict had been teaching her didn't matter. After dinner, as I was cleaning up, I heard Benedict make his way slowly down the stairs. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking marginally better, but still weak. I called my office, he said. Told them I missed the Peterson presentation because I have severe food poisoning. And? Tom was shocked. Said he'd never known me to miss work for illness. Said I must be really sick. What did you tell him? Benedict leaned against the doorframe. I told him I was. That I'd been foolish to think I could power through everything. That sometimes people need to rest when they're sick. Lily looked up from her coloring book. That's what Mommy always says. Your mommy is a very wise woman, Benedict said, his eyes not leaving mine. The evening progressed with a strange new dynamic. Benedict sat on the couch, sipping water and nibbling crackers, while Lily showed him her drawings. She explained each one in detail. The purple elephant, the rainbow house, the family of butterflies. He listened with an attention I'd rarely seen him give her before. This one's you being sick, she said, showing him a figure lying in bed. And this is me being sick. See? We match. Benedict studied the drawing with an expression I couldn't quite read. We do match, he agreed softly. I'm sorry it took me being sick to understand how you felt. That's okay, Lily said, already moving on to the next picture. Sometimes grown-ups are slow learners. That's what Grandma says. Your grandma's right about that, Benedict murmured. As bedtime approached, Lily's usual routine took on a different feel. When Benedict tried to stand to help with her bath, he swayed dangerously. I've got it, I said quickly. You rest. But Lily had other ideas. Daddy can sit on the bathroom floor and talk to me while I take my bath, she suggested. That way he's resting but still helping. And so that's what happened. Benedict sat on the bathroom floor, his back against the wall, while Lily splashed in the tub and told him about her day at preschool. He asked questions, real questions, not the dismissive half attention he usually gave. And then Benedict said his tummy hurt, but Mrs. Lawson believed him right away and called his mommy, Lily was saying. She didn't say he was making it up. That's because Mrs. Lawson is a good teacher, Benedict said. She knows that when children say they're hurting, it's real. Like how Mommy knows, Lily added, pouring water from one cup to another. Yes, like how Mommy knows, and like how I should have known. After her bath, as I helped Lily into her pajamas, she made another request. Can Daddy read me my bedtime story? I glanced at Benedict, who was using the wall to support himself as he stood. I don't know if Daddy's feeling up to. I can do it, he interrupted. I want to do it. So we made our way to Lily's room, Benedict moving slowly but determinedly. He settled into the chair beside her bed while she chose a book, one about a little bear who is afraid of the dark. As he read, his voice hoarse but gentle, I stood in the doorway watching. Lily was curled on her side, her eyes growing heavy as the story progressed. When he reached the part where the little bear's father shows him that the dark isn't scary, Benedict's voice caught. You see, said Papa Bear, I'm here with you, even in the dark, even when you're scared, I'm here. Lily reached out and patted Benedict's hand. Like how Daddy's here now, she said sleepily. Yes, Benedict whispered, like how Daddy's here now, and how Daddy should have been here before. After Lily fell asleep, Benedict sat in the chair for a long moment, just watching her. When he finally stood to leave, he had to grip the furniture to keep his balance. Let me help you, I said, surprising myself. He looked at me with such gratitude that I almost took it back, but I stepped forward and let him lean on me as we made our way to the guest room. He was burning up with fever, I realized. Despite my anger, my nurse's training kicked in. You need acetaminophen, I said, and more fluids. Sarah, I interrupted. This doesn't mean I forgive you. It means I'm not going to let you get dangerously dehydrated out of spite. He nodded, sinking onto the guest bed. I fetched medicine and water from our bathroom, along with a cool washcloth for his forehead. As I set them on the nightstand, he caught my hand. I want to see someone, he said. A therapist. Someone who can help me understand why I'm like this. Why I couldn't see past my own damage to help our daughter. I pulled my hand away. That's a start. Would you come with me? Eventually? Maybe family therapy? Maybe, I said. But you need to do the work on your own first. You need to understand the depth of what you've done. Not just to Lily, but to the way she sees the world, the way she sees herself. I know. He lay back against the pillows, exhausted. I know, and I'm terrified I've already broken something in her. She's resilient, I said, the irony not lost on either of us. But not in the way you think. She's resilient because she knows she's loved and supported, because she has at least one parent who believes her when she says she's hurting. She should have two, Benedict said quietly. Yes, she should. I left him then, returning to Lily's room to check on her one more time. She was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. I smoothed her hair back and kissed her forehead, grateful for her kind heart, hoping it would survive whatever came next. The house was quiet as I prepared for bed. From the guest room, I could hear Benedict getting up periodically, his illness still running its course. But I also heard something else, the sound of him crying. Not the angry, frustrated tears of a sick man, but something deeper, the sound of someone finally facing the pain they'd caused. I lay in our empty bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Benedict had learned his lesson, or at least begun to. But was it enough? Could he really change beliefs that had been hammered into him since birth? Could our marriage survive the resentment I felt? Could Lily grow up feeling safe to express her needs with both parents? I didn't have answers. All I knew was that something had shifted today. The dynamic in our family had changed, forced by circumstances I'd orchestrated, but which had taken on a life of their own. Benedict's illness had become a catalyst for something larger, a reckoning with generational trauma and toxic beliefs that had nearly poisoned another generation. Tomorrow, he would likely be better. His physical illness would pass. But the real work would just be beginning. The work of rebuilding trust with a 4-year-old who'd learned too young that Daddy didn't believe her pain. The work of examining why he'd rather let his child suffer than admit weakness existed. The work of becoming the father Lily deserved. As I finally drifted off to sleep, I heard Lily's voice in my head. Sometimes grown-ups are slow learners. Indeed they were. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late for this grown-up to learn. The third morning started with Benedict finally emerging from the guest room on his own. He moved like an elderly man, gripping furniture as he made his way to the kitchen where Lily and I were having breakfast. His skin had lost that gray tinge, though dark circles still ringed his eyes. Lily noticed him first, her spoon freezing halfway to her mouth. Daddy's walking. Benedict attempted a weak smile, lowering himself carefully into a chair. I continued buttering Lily's toast, not acknowledging his presence. He cleared his throat, then reached for the water pitcher with trembling hands. Can I have some toast too? Lily asked me, already finished with her first piece. I made her another slice while Benedict watched us, his expression unreadable. When I set the plate in front of Lily, she looked between us, then pushed it toward her father. You can have this one, Daddy. Your tummy might be ready for toast now. Benedict stared at the offering, his jaw working. He picked up the toast with shaking fingers and took the tiniest bite. Lily watched anxiously as he chewed and swallowed. Did it stay down? She asked. He nodded slowly. It stayed down. Good, she beamed. When I was getting better, Mommy gave me toast too. It helped. The comparison hung in the air. Benedict took another small bite, his movements mechanical. I busied myself cleaning up breakfast dishes, listening to Lily chatter about her plans for the day. She wanted to paint, she informed us. Big paintings with lots of colors. Benedict's phone buzzed on the counter where I'd left it yesterday. He glanced at it, wincing at whatever he saw there. More missed calls from work, no doubt. The Peterson presentation fallout would be significant. Mommy, can we go to the park today? Lily asked, bouncing in her seat. We'll see, sweetheart. Let me check the weather. Benedict pushed back from the table, the toast only half eaten. I should try to shower, he said to no one in particular. He made it 2 steps before having to grab the wall. Lily jumped up, rushing to his side. I'll help you walk, Daddy, like how Mommy helped me when my legs were wobbly. She took his hand, all 4 years of her trying to support his weight. Benedict looked down at her, his face crumpling. He let her guide him to the stairs, her little voice encouraging him the whole way. One step, then another step. That's what Mommy said. You're doing good, Daddy. I followed at a distance, ready to intervene if needed. At the top of the stairs, Benedict paused, breathing heavily. Lily patted his arm. Almost there. The bathroom's just down the hall. Once he was safely in the bathroom, Lily turned to me with bright eyes. I'm a good helper, right, Mommy? The best helper, I agreed, though something twisted in my chest at how naturally she'd stepped into the caretaker role. While Benedict showered, I helped Lily set up her painting supplies on the kitchen table. She'd covered it with newspaper, arranging her watercolors with precision. The doorbell rang just as she was filling her water cup. It was Tom from Benedict's office, looking concerned. He held a box of files and Benedict's laptop bag. Sarah, I'm sorry to bother you. Is Benedict okay? We're all worried. I kept my expression neutral. He's recovering from severe food poisoning. The Peterson deal fell through, Tom said, shifting uncomfortably. Mr. Peterson was furious about the no-show, said it was unprofessional, that if Benedict couldn't be bothered to show up for the biggest presentation of the year. I see. Tom handed me the box. These are Benedict's things from his office. Mr. Davidson said, well, he said Benedict should take some time to consider his priorities. The weight of what Tom wasn't saying settled over me. Benedict hadn't just missed a presentation. He'd likely lost his job. Thank you for bringing these by, I said. Tom peered past me, perhaps hoping to see Benedict. Tell him we're thinking of him, and if he needs anything. I closed the door on his platitudes, setting the box on the hall table. Lily looked up from her painting, purple paint already decorating decorating her nose. Who was that, Mommy? Someone from Daddy's work. She nodded, returning to her art. Is Daddy in trouble? Like when I got in trouble for drawing on the walls? Something like that. Benedict appeared at the top of the stairs, clean but unsteady. He'd managed to dress himself, though his shirt was buttoned wrong. He made his way down slowly, pausing when he saw the box. Was that Tom? I nodded. He approached the box like it might bite him, lifting the lid with trembling hands. His termination letter sat on top, the company letterhead stark against white paper. He read it silently, then sank onto the bottom stair. They fired me. Daddy got fired? Lily asked, looking up from her painting. Like fired from a cannon? No, sweetie. It means Daddy doesn't work at that place anymore. She considered this. Oh, well, now you can stay home and play with me. Benedict's laugh was hollow. I suppose I can. He spent the next hour on the couch, staring at nothing while Lily painted. She created a series of increasingly abstract pieces, narrating each one. This one was a butterfly. That one was our house. The purple blob was Daddy when he was sick. Do you want to paint too, Daddy? She offered, holding out a brush. He shook his head. I don't think I'd be very good at it. That's okay. Mommy says art isn't about being good. It's about expressing yourself. The irony of a 4-year-old teaching him about expression wasn't lost on any of us. Benedict accepted the brush, letting Lily guide him through mixing colors. She was patient with him, more patient than he'd ever been with her. See? You made green. Now paint something green. He made a few tentative strokes on the paper. Lily clapped encouragingly. That's beautiful, Daddy. What is it? I don't know, he admitted. That's okay too. Sometimes we don't know what we're making until we're done. I watched them from the kitchen, seeing Benedict through new eyes. Without his job, without his carefully constructed walls, he looked lost, smaller somehow, more like the scared little boy his father had tried to hit the weakness out of. The morning progressed with Lily directing Benedict through various activities. She showed him her dolls, explaining their complex social dynamics. She taught him the song Mrs. Lawson had taught them about days of the week. She even convinced him to have a tea party, though he barely touched the imaginary tea. You have to hold your pinky out, Lily instructed, demonstrating proper tea etiquette. Like this. Benedict mimicked her, his large hand dwarfing the tiny plastic teacup. She nodded approvingly. Good job, Daddy. You're learning. Around lunchtime, Benedict's phone rang. His mother's name flashed on the screen. He stared at it, letting it ring until it went to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again. Aren't you going to answer? Lily asked. I don't know what to say to her. Lily tilted her head. You could say hello. That's what I say when someone calls. He answered on the third ring, his voice barely audible. Hello, Mother. I couldn't hear her side of the conversation, but I could see Benedict's face growing paler with each word. His free hand clenched and unclenched in his lap. Yes, I missed work. No, I'm not being dramatic. I had food poisoning. Yes, real food poisoning. Lily watched with concern as Benedict's shoulders hunched further with each response. Finally, she couldn't stand it anymore. She marched over and held out her hand for the phone. Can I talk to Grandma? Benedict handed it over without thinking. Lily put the phone to her ear with both hands. Hi, Grandma. It's Lily. Yes, I'm being good. Daddy's sick. He throwed up just like I did. No, he's not pretending. I saw it. She listened for a moment, her little face growing serious. Grandma, that's not nice. When people are sick, we're supposed to help them. Mrs. Lawson says so. I don't care what you say. Daddy was really sick and throwing up is scary and you should be nicer. She handed the phone back to Benedict and returned to her tea party, leaving him staring at the device in shock. His mother's voice squawked from the speaker until he finally ended the call. Lily, he said softly, you didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, she said firmly. Grandma was being mean. We don't let people be mean in our house. The afternoon brought new challenges. Benedict attempted to eat lunch, just plain rice and broth, but could only manage a few bites. Lily sat beside him, offering encouragement with each spoonful. You're doing so good, Daddy. Your tummy is getting stronger. He managed half the bowl before pushing it away. Lily patted his hand sympathetically. It's okay. When I was sick, I couldn't eat much either. Mommy said my tummy needed time to remember how to work right. Your mommy is very smart, Benedict said, glancing at me. The smartest, Lily agreed. She knows everything about taking care of sick people. We spent the afternoon in the living room. Lily had decided Benedict needed entertainment to feel better, so she performed every song and dance she knew. Her rendition of Wheels on the Bus included elaborate hand motions and sound effects. Now you try, Daddy. Benedict's attempt was pitiful, but Lily cheered like he'd just performed on Broadway. That was amazing. Do you want to learn another one? By evening, Benedict had managed to keep down some crackers and ginger ale. Lily had appointed herself his official nurse, checking on him every few minutes with her toy stethoscope. Your heart is still beating, she announced after a thorough examination. That's good news. Thank you, Dr. Lily, Benedict said, managing a genuine smile. You're welcome. Now you need to rest. Doctor's orders. She tucked a blanket around him with great care, making sure his feet were covered. When I was sick, being cozy helped me feel better. As bedtime approached, Lily made an announcement. I want Daddy to help with bedtime tonight. I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Daddy's still recovering? I'm sure, she said firmly. He needs practice for when I get sick again. Benedict struggled to his feet. I'd like to help if that's okay. We made our way upstairs, Benedict leaning heavily on the railing. Lily directed him through her bedtime routine with the patience of a preschool teacher. First, we brushed teeth. You have to watch and make sure I get all of them. He stood behind her at the bathroom sink, watching her reflection as she brushed. She showed him how she could reach her back teeth now, how she could spit without making a mess. Good job, he said when she finished. Now you have to help me put on my pajamas, but I can do most of it myself because I'm a big girl. She managed everything except the buttons, which Benedict handled with shaking fingers. Next came the selection of stuffed animals for bed, a complex process with specific rules about who could sleep where. Mr. Bunny always goes on the right side, Bear goes on the left, and Princess Unicorn sleeps at the bottom to guard my feet. Benedict arranged them according to her specifications, adjusting Princess Unicorn twice before Lily was satisfied. Then came story time. You can pick a book tonight, Daddy. He studied her bookshelf with more concentration than he'd ever given a work presentation. Finally, he selected one about a little elephant who was afraid of water. Good choice, Lily approved, settling under her covers. His voice was still hoarse as he read, but Lily didn't complain. She listened intently, occasionally reaching out to turn the pages for him when his hands shook too much. When the story ended, she had questions. Why was the elephant scared of water? Because he'd never tried it before, Benedict said. Sometimes we're scared of things we don't understand. Like how you were scared of believing people could be sick? He froze, the book still open in his lap. Yes, exactly like that. But the elephant learned swimming was fun, so maybe you can learn that taking care of sick people is important. I'm trying to learn that, he said quietly. Lily reached up and patted his cheek. I know, you're doing good for your first time. After kisses and final tuck-ins, Benedict paused at her door. Lily, thank you for taking care of me today. You're welcome, Daddy. That's what families do. We stood in the hallway, neither speaking. Benedict swayed slightly, exhaustion clear in every line of his body. But there was something else there too, a crack in the armor he'd worn for so long. She's remarkable. horrible, he said finally. She is. I could have destroyed that. I could have turned her into... He trailed off, unable to finish. But you didn't, I said. Not yet. He nodded slowly, understanding the weight of those 2 words. Not yet. There was still time, but not much. And only if he did the work. The therapist, he said. I meant it. I'll call tomorrow. Find someone who specializes in whatever's wrong with me. Childhood trauma, generational patterns, toxic masculinity. Take your pick. He flinched, but didn't argue. All of the above, probably. We made our way downstairs, Benedict using the wall for support. In the living room, Lily's paintings from the morning were still spread on the coffee table, drying. He studied them, tracing the chaotic swirls of color with one finger. She painted this while I was sick, he said, pointing to the purple blob. She saw me at my absolute worst, and her response was to create art about it. Children process things differently than adults. Better, you mean, more honestly. He picked up the painting he'd made with her help, uncertain green strokes on white paper. She said sometimes we don't know what we're making until we're done. I think that's where I am. I don't know what I'm becoming. That's the first honest thing you've said in years. He set the painting down carefully. Sarah, I know you hate me right now. I know I've damaged things maybe beyond repair, but I need you to know, today, watching Lily take care of me, seeing how naturally compassion comes to her, I finally understand what I almost stole from her. Understanding is just the first step, I know, but it's a step I couldn't take until now, until I felt what she felt, until I experienced being helpless and having no one believe me. His phone buzzed with another call from his mother. He declined it without hesitation. She'll keep calling, I said. Let her. I'm done listening to her poison. We sat in silence, the weight of the past few days settling over us. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Benedict would need to find a therapist, deal with his job loss, start the long process of undoing years of damage. But tonight, for the first time, it felt possible. I should sleep, he said eventually. Still not fully recovered. He stood carefully, then paused. Sarah, will you tell me something honestly? I waited. Is it too late for Lily and me? Have I already broken something that can't be fixed? I thought of our daughter's pure heart, her instinctive kindness, her willingness to forgive. I don't know. But she gave you her toast this morning. She held your hand on the stairs. She defended you to your mother. That has to count for something. He nodded, tears threatening again. It counts for everything. As he made his way to the guest room, I heard Lily's door creak open. She padded out in her pajamas, dragging Mr. Bunny. Mommy, is Daddy going to be okay? I pulled her into my lap. What do you think? She considered this seriously. I think he's trying, and Mrs. Lawson says trying is the most important part. Mrs. Lawson is right. Mommy, I'm glad Daddy got sick. Oh, why's that? Because now he knows how I felt, and now he can learn to be a better helper. Sometimes people need to feel things themselves to understand. The wisdom of children never ceased to amaze me. I kissed the top of her head. You're absolutely right, baby. Can he sleep in the real bedroom tomorrow? The guest room is lonely. We'll see. She nodded, satisfied with this answer. Okay, good night, Mommy. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. I carried her back to bed, tucking her in again. As I turned off her light, she spoke once more. Mommy, tomorrow can we all have breakfast together? Like a real family? We'll see, I repeated, though something in my chest loosened at the thought. The house settled into quiet. From the guest room, I could hear Benedict moving around, probably taking the medication I'd left for him. Tomorrow he'd be mostly recovered physically. The real work would just be beginning. I thought about the box from his office, the termination letter, the life he'd built on rigid beliefs now crumbling. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sad. All of me felt exhausted. But there was hope too, fragile and new, in Lily's compassion, in Benedict's tears, in the possibility that sometimes people could change, even when that change came through suffering. I made my rounds, checking locks, turning off lights. Outside Lily's door, I paused, listening to her peaceful breathing. Whatever happened next, she would be okay. I'd make sure of it. The guest room door was ajar. I could see Benedict lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. For a moment, our eyes met. No words were exchanged, but something passed between us. An acknowledgement, a possibility, a tentative first step toward whatever came next. I continued to our bedroom, my bedroom for now, and closed the door. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Benedict would call therapists, confront his mother, begin the hard work of rebuilding. I would have to decide if I could forgive, if our marriage could survive, if the man he might become was worth waiting for. But tonight, our daughter slept peacefully, dreaming of butterflies and tea parties. She'd shown more grace in 2 days than most adults managed in a lifetime. If she could offer compassion to the father who'd failed her, perhaps there was hope for all of us. The morning would come soon enough, with all its complications and decisions. For now, I let myself rest, knowing that whatever happened, Lily would never again question whether her pain mattered. That lesson, at least, had been learned. In the guest room, Benedict's recovery continued, not just from food poisoning, but from a lifetime of toxic beliefs. It would be a long journey, but every journey began with a single step. And sometimes, that step was accepting a piece of toast from a 4-year-old who loved you despite your failures.